This is The Space Shot, episode 345 for April 24th, 2018. Hubble launches. I'm John Molnix. Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. I want to thank all of you that are here listening every day. I appreciate it more than you know, and I'm ecstatic that you spend time with me each day. I was looking at my calendar this morning, and we're just 3 weeks away from the 1-year anniversary of The Space Shot. It's crazy to think how far I've come in this time. When I started this podcast, I hadn't written every day consistently before. Now, nearly a year later, I've broken many personal records. Last week, I clocked in at a number that blew my mind because I wasn't expecting it. According to Grammarly, I wrote 26,602 words in the last week. To say that I'm a little surprised and excited is an understatement. The speech that I gave last week at the Cosmosphere was the first time that I've spoken to that large of a crowd. I was definitely more than a little nervous, but experiencing that has helped me grow, just as writing and podcasting every day for nearly the past year has done as well. This podcast has become a creative outlet for me that has helped me grow as a writer, expand my skills as a podcaster, and do more things than I thought possible. I'm looking forward to Season 2 and diving into longer conversations with people in the space industry, writers, scientists, teachers, other podcasters, and surprise guests that I have in mind for a variety of topics. Alrighty, now let's get to some space history. On April 24th, 1990, the Space Shuttle Discovery launched on a 5-day mission to deploy a satellite that has helped us explore strange new worlds. Sadly, we haven't been able to seek out new life and new civilizations just yet, but we are rapidly approaching a time in our history where that will be possible. The crew of STS-31 has some familiar names: Commander Lauren Shriver, pilot Charles Bolden, and mission specialists Bruce McCandless, Stephen Hawley, and Kathy Sullivan. As I've mentioned before, Steve Hawley was one of my favorite astronauts growing up. When my mom drove my sisters and I to Kansas to see family, we would always pass through Salina, Kansas, Hawley's hometown. I remember my mom always telling me to be on the lookout for the signs on the road that noted Salina, Kansas is the hometown of astronaut Steve Hawley. I made sure to call out these signs just last week when we passed through Salina. These road signs might not seem like much, but for a little kid, it was one of the coolest things ever. Anyways, back to Discovery and STS-31. Besides deploying the Hubble Space Telescope, the crew also flew with IMAX cameras to document their journey. There were 2 of those cameras on this mission, one that was remotely controlled in the payload bay, and another handheld camera that the crew could operate inside the shuttle. As a kid, I always loved seeing these IMAX movies. Hearing the roar of the shuttle as it lifted off is quite an experience in an IMAX theater. You feel the base shake you as the massive solid rocket boosters ignite to send the shuttle to orbit. These IMAX cameras also captured some incredible images from space. The clarity and scale blow most movie theaters out of the water. I watched the post-flight press conference for STS-31, and there's some excellent mission footage in there. It's VHS quality, so it's not the greatest, but there's some interesting insights, and I'll be linking to it in the show notes so you can watch it for yourself. I've talked about the Hubble Space Telescope a couple of times before, but if you're new to the podcast, you should check out episodes 201, 202, and 203. I talk about the specific capabilities of the telescope in those episodes. One of the things that blows my mind about Hubble is that it has a pointing accuracy of 0.007 arc seconds, which is like being able to shine a laser beam focused on FDR's head on a dime roughly 200 miles away. In those older episodes, I linked to a couple NASA articles that have more facts like that, so be sure to check them out. I know a lot of you that listen to the podcast live outside the United States, and for some perspective, a dime has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters, with FDR's head taking up about 2/3 of the front surface of that coin. Hubble did have some issues after being deployed. Its primary mirror was ground improperly, which resulted in some blurry images. The process of fixing this telescope and the subsequent servicing missions are another topic in episodes 202 and 203. During the press conference for STS-31, it was interesting to hear the astronauts talk about the future servicing missions for the telescope and how it would be in orbit for years to come. After the shuttles were retired, NASA lost the ability to service the venerable space telescope. 28 years have passed since Hubble launched, and with the continued delays for the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble remains one of the most powerful scientific instruments that we have access to, nearly 3 decades after launching. Reading about flights like STS-31 really makes me miss the shuttle program. NASA was able to fly some incredible missions during the shuttle's lifetime. Tomorrow, we finally catch up with Apollo 16. I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your day. I appreciate each and every one of you that listen to the podcast every day. I'd be incredibly grateful if you could share the podcast with your friends and family. Tag one of them and let them know about your favorite episode. I'd also really appreciate it if you could venture into the Apple Podcasts app or your podcast app of choice and leave a review for The Space Shot. A steady stream of reviews helps ensure The Space Shot is more visible in the Apple Podcasts app. As always, the show notes have more information on today's episode. You can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter. Find me at John Molnix. I'm always up to chat. You can also connect with me on Facebook. Just search The Space Shot or check out the links in the show notes and you'll find me. I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.